Hello and welcome to the first act of the virtual Overland Expo Fall Event 2020. Sorry for the slight delay there. I'm Reece, that is Matt. Matt, give us a wave.
Hi guys.
Lovely. For those who don't know, we are the Sidecar Guys. We're called the Sidecar Guys because we are the first people to circumnavigate the globe by scooter and sidecar. 35 countries, 34,000 miles and 5 continents. And the reason we're here today is because back in April, we launched something called the Armchair Adventure Festival. The Armchair Adventure Festival is the very first completely live virtual event that span over 3 days. We had about 20,000 people join us over that weekend. It was a lot of fun. We're bringing it back at the end of November. And that's why we're here in particular today, because we've got a pretty adventurous panel and we're looking at top travel tips. Hey, mate.
Yes, that's right. So we've got about 40 minutes now where the whole point of it is just get your questions answered back home. So you can just type in on the comments box below just any questions you might have for the panel, and we'll try and get them answered by our esteemed guests. So we should just say before we kick off, there's 3 of us here, me, Reece and Todd backstage, who does all the tech stuff. So if we do leave at all, Todd will save the day and we will be back in no time. But also, I guess, if it does fail, it's Todd's fault, so please blame him. But I guess without further ado then, let's introduce everyone. So we've got Ted, Simon, Tiffany Coates and Taser and Nesto. But rather than me go on about them, I think it'd be fun to let the guys speak for themselves. So Tiff, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and about your adventure travel background?
I've got nothing to say about myself at all. I really, if you haven't read my book, then I don't.
Diva Ted piping in there. Yeah.
I don't actually want to talk to you at all. You haven't read
it. Fair enough. I would say in that case, anyone watching will know who Ted is. That's fair. That's a fair assumption, I'd assume. Tiffany, in case they don't know who you are, would you like to say a few things?
Okay, sure. I mean, I think I can only do slightly better than Ted with that great self-introduction, Ted. I'm Tiffany Coates. I'm from the UK, and I've done a lot of solo motorcycle travel all over the world, crossed every continent, some of them 2 or 3 times. And I'm also a freelance tour guide now, sort of specializing Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So questions about anywhere in the world, particularly on 2 wheels.
Oh, and Taser and Nesto?
Great. Hi, I'm Taisa. We're
Overland Americas. We did a 4-year journey through 23 countries, 4 years in 75,000 miles.
Cool.
In South America.
So
Awesome.
guys, as Matt sort of mentioned before, this is completely live, and right underneath there's the comments box. If you've got any questions, we've seen them already starting to come through. We're monitoring those questions, so get them in and we'll put them to our panelists. I suppose I'm going to be greedy here, if you don't mind, guys. I'm going to ask the first question, and I'll turn it first to you, Ted, if that's all right. A lot of people, I think, watching these sort of things, they love the idea of going on adventures, but it's where do you start with them? How do you get into an adventure? Where did you start in terms of this amazing life that you've led? What made you start Jupiter, if you like?
Well, when I started, people didn't really know anything very much about the world, and so from my point of view, it was just curiosity, and I don't really know how I would start an adventure today, because everybody seems to know everything about everything already. I mean, I think that's ridiculous, of course, because when you do go out there, you discover how little you actually know. But to get you moving, I don't know what would get you moving now, especially as I was saying, you'd have to wear an adventure mask to be going anywhere, and the world is so completely different. I just don't know. I don't know.
Fair enough. It's a tricky thing, I suppose, isn't it, Tiffany? I mean, what made you sort of start getting into adventure all those years ago, 20 odd years ago now?
Well, it's quite funny how the word adventure comes up now. As far as I'm concerned, it's my holidays. Okay, purely and simply, it's my holidays. And I've always had a passion for travel. My dad was in the army, so I grew up always moving around. Sometimes I never even looked or sound like the people around me. You've just got to smile and get on with life. And that's sort of an extension of life, really, with going traveling, and it's curiosity. So you sort of think, oh, I'd love to see the jungles of Madagascar or the volcanoes in Indonesia. And it's just a question of just going out there to go and see for myself. And, you know, for the last 20 years, it's been on two wheels. So, yeah, I find it the best way to get to see everywhere, the freedom and independence, and the most amazing experiences just by being out there and seeing everything.
Awesome. And Thaisa and Esther, I mean, that's, I guess, for those, Ted and Tiffany there, it's curiosity. Would you sort of say the same thing, or what started you guys off?
We both, since we were kids, I was drawn to world culture, like in a very weird way. I was kind of the odd kid, collecting postal stamps and learning every country and every capital, playing with a globe. So I just really don't know, why was that, but started traveling when I had the opportunity in college. And then it just kind of became sort of an addictive thing to do. And I just wanted to be able to get to spend a little bit more time in the countries that we were traveling in, just landing on the vehicle, adventure travel sort of things. And we just pretty much like planned for 1.5 years and kept going. And yeah, just like it's a wonderful way to discover the world and people and culture and learn about us.
And I've always wanted to see the world too. I was a geography major, so it's kind of a natural progression.
Yeah,
for sure. Awesome. Yeah, it's interesting points that, guys. I think you're right, like the curiosity thing. And then also, I think what you said, Ted, about the more you travel, the more you realize you don't know, the more places you realize there are to go. And I guess that's where the sort of addictive kind of the travel bug comes from. That's probably the basis of the bug, isn't it? There's just what's over the top of that hill, or what's behind that, past that corner, or all that kind of stuff. I guess one thing I always find is that you sit at home, you get the map out. Tiffany just looks behind her on the map there, and you plan that big adventure, and then you cross that first border. Maybe you're getting excited, and then you suddenly realise how little you knew, and how things take you by surprise. And I guess, Thaisa and Esther, is there anything that you learned the hard way? Like what when you set off, is there something you'd wish you could have given a tip to people back home to say, oh, make sure you do this, or make sure you go there?
Actually, I don't think so. I mean, we were like seemingly on a 4-year honeymoon. For us, we never felt like a meltdown. Obviously, there were moments in which we were. It was rough between us just because of the space that we shared. Yeah. But I think that every day was a beautiful and unforgettable experience. The people that we met, we kept just not only getting to know a little bit more about people, but learning about ourselves. So nothing to regret, honestly.
The tip would be to go. Just go.
Just go. Yeah. Don't put.
For sure. Yeah. Same experience for you, Ted. Did you just go and it all went perfectly well, or did you learn some things the hard way?
I don't know. It obviously went perfectly well because I got back, but, and everything that happened along the way, a lot of it was unpleasant, but it's all very nice to look back on. But mine was a very specific adventure. I mean, I thought I was going to be the first person to go around the world on a motorcycle, and everybody I knew thought I was too, because none of us were motorcyclists. It turns out there were 1 or 2 people who'd done it before, but when I started, I had absolutely no idea that of what I'd be confronting along the way, and quite honestly, I expected quite probably to die somewhere on the way around, because it seemed incredibly dangerous to me at that time. So of course I'm very glad to have got back alive, and everything that happened was extraordinary. I think really, even though it's very nice for us all to be sitting here and telling you telling you about travel and so on. The truth of the matter is you'll never really know until you do it what it's like and what it can do for you. And so the main thing is, what gets you going in the first place.
Yeah.
I just wonder how we're going to deal with all this virus stuff, because it's so it's such a bummer, isn't it? I mean,
it is a bit of a bummer, but I guess also there could be, adventure on your doorstep and stuff. I mean, Tiff, I follow you on social media and stuff. I see you having lots of adventures down in Cornwall. Are you managing to keep your travel fix, sort of travel itch scratched during the lockdown, that sort of stuff?
Well, yes, but also for me, rather naughtily, this has been amazing. I've had a whole summer at home, and forgive me for saying this, but I do feel I live in the most beautiful part of Britain. And so it's been like, wow, I've got a whole summer here. So just being able to chill out, lots and lots of walking. I'm right by the coast. So yeah, sea kayaking, surfing, swimming every day. Just being able to make the most of it. And I've also been doing my bike riding, because I've been delivering prescriptions as a volunteer for people who are shielding. So getting out and about on the bike and seeing their faces, because usually the delivery prescription people are in vans and stuff and quite formal, and I just sort of turn up in my bike leather, sort of, hello, it's me, yes, and to get over. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. So you're managing to keep busy at least. What about you, Teja and Ernesto? With all the lockdown, obviously traveling a lot usually, what's it been like for you? Have you been managing to keep that travel itch scratched, or?
On weekends, yeah. We also feel so lucky to be in a really beautiful place. We think Washington State is gorgeous, so we've been camping on the weekends and making the best of it.
Yeah, just like Tiffany's home, like there's tons of mountains. We have the coast right here. 3 beautiful states right near us, so it's just fantastic. So we pretty much like try to get out as much as we can. So.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I'd say, guys, it's definitely worth opening this sort of, what travel is going to be like in the future up a little bit later on in this conversation. I suppose going back to sort of dreamers and that sort of side of things, for people who, hope to travel in the future, it's a question that always gets asked. And it's such an obvious question. So I may as well ask it. McCoffin12 on the feed, Tiffany, has asked, how do you start a trip financially if you're trying to do something such as going for such a long time? Where do you begin?
So financially, where do you begin? Oh my goodness. So I've been saving since I was 14 years old and started babysitting. So every penny from my babysitting money was always sort of put aside for savings, and it's always been to sort of go off and do travels. So I suppose it's and that is a lot of people's main question is, how do you afford to do it? And I say, well, it's a question of priorities. So how you live your life at home. I tend to live very frugally. My bike Thelma is the only vehicle I've ever owned, so I've got no car expense or anything like that. And so live frugally with that focus of wanting to save up to go traveling. And then I think initially it was a case of, is there enough money? Is there enough money? But it is, like Thaisa said, you've just got to go for it. So you just head off and you just hope you've got enough money. Or at least that's the way I do. I know it doesn't suit everyone. And I just keep riding until I run out of money. And then I borrow some off my mum and dad, put it on the credit card, and just, continue a bit more till I can get home, save up, pay off my debts, and then save up a bit more money and head off again. So, and I travel frugally as well. I mean, I love wild camping anyway. And so I do a lot of great outdoors, and I cook for myself a fair bit. My biggest expense is always fuel. So, and with that, the slower you travel, the lower your daily costs are. So it's a great way to travel and to see the world.
Yeah. And Ted, I suppose for yourself, you went traveling sort of at 2 very different times in your life in particular. Yeah. Did you find that sort of like traveling became much more expensive, much more difficult, or more accessible?
Gosh, I really don't know. I mean, my whole purpose on the first journey was to be poor. I wanted, I was interested in the parts of the world that you don't hear about, where there's a lot of poverty and so on. So I was very frugal. I was supported by a newspaper, so I'm in a different situation to most people. But there were times when I didn't get the support. And what I found then was that the best way, and it's the way I would do it now, is to become a beggar. I think begging is actually a really good way to go around the world, because you really have to humiliate yourself in a way, which is revealing, because people respond very, very well to somebody who's obviously in need, and especially travelers. And travelers always, in the old days, always used to be beggars. And I was a very good beggar in India. I was better than the Indian beggars were. I used to, because I had an obvious advantage, because I looked different. So
I think Ted, or just begging? Do you any busking, any dancing, singing, that kind of stuff, or?
No, I told stories.
Told stories. Oh, I can imagine that. Yeah.
Stories, yeah. And I tried to beg in a sort of more elevated social stratum, like clubs, people's sort of gentlemen's clubs and things like that. But doing it on the street in India would not be very profitable.
No, yeah, I can imagine.
You have to develop some kind of a sense that what you're doing is important, and feel good about what you're doing. And if you do that, and you can project that, then people will usually help you. I think that, and you need far less money than you imagine you're going to need.
Yeah. I think that's definitely the case. I'll be honest, I've never heard someone suggest begging, to be fair. So that is a good one.
Yeah.
It's a good one to get. It's a good travel tip. So there you go. I mean, Ernesto and Taser, I heard you, if anything, I don't know if you're agreeing with the begging side, but you were probably agreeing with sort of what Tiffany said about how she sort of financed a trip like this. I mean, is that what you sort of agree with? You got any tips in it yourselves in that sense?
Yeah, 100%.
So well said.
Yeah, definitely. We haven't begged yet. Maybe we'll try that in the future. But like, we agree with, like, Tiffany 100%. Like, well, before we getting ready, we saved for years, and as I said, we went for, we planning that we were going to be a year and a half. Then we started realizing that the slower that we travel, the longer our money will go. Yeah. Right. Our main expense was fuel. And I was lucky to also land a few gigs. I do computer work, so that helped us extend our trip. But definitely, yeah, like doing like the locals do, eating where they eat, following their advice, it helps quite a bit. And we prioritize fuel over other things, just to be able to get to remote places and get to have what we think was probably a more authentic experience, just by getting us away from the big cities, more to the countryside of every country we went to.
And I think what Tiffany said, the intentional saving, just having that intention of that you're saving for your, for your trip, for your adventure, for your vacation. So just keeping that in mind. And there are some sacrifices too that we made in terms of saving before we left. Like we had a roommate, and downsize also, we had one vehicle between the two of us, but things like that.
Yeah, for sure. Priorities, isn't it, I guess? And yeah. So Wayne, we're getting loads of questions coming in here, guys. We've got 157 people on the stream, and it's hard to keep up. So if I'm looking down here, I'm not just not listening, I'm looking at all the questions popping up on the stream. We've had quite a few about food. So yeah, let's open it up and talk about this a bit. Tiffany, what's the best place in the world to go to if you're a foodie and you want to go and try some different kinds of foods?
Oh, for me, it's India. So I know if curry isn't your thing, you'll probably switch off and think, oh no, but oh my goodness, the range of food in India, it's not just curries at all. And those who follow me know that I love idli, and idli are like a sort of lentil and rice dumpling, and that's my favorite breakfast. And yeah, traveling in India, I actually put on weight. Every time I go to India, I actually put on weight because I'm just like eating so much. I'm just enjoying it. So yeah, for me, it's the Indian food is the best.
I'm surprised you didn't say Cornwall with your clotted cream addiction that you got us into at the Overland event this year. How about you, Ted? Anywhere in particular in the world that you thought the food was just fantastic and you'd go back for that reason? Or is that why you're in France these days?
Oh no, I'm with Tiffany, really.
Yeah.
I think in India and Southeast Asia, street food. I love street food.
Yeah.
And you know, I mean, there's wonderful food everywhere. But I like spicy stuff. And I like.
Yeah, Taser and Ernesto.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm a good eater. I love food. We had great experiences, lots of street food as well. So Central and South America, and in terms of where I really enjoyed and gained that happy weight was in Mexico. You can eat forever. It's almost cheaper to eat out there than cook. So
yeah, Peru has an excellent culinary culture. It's a really nice fusion, and Brazil, Brazil and Colombia as well. So I think that we can agree between the two of us here that Mexico, Peru, Brazil, and Colombia, they eat the, you know, it's always plentiful, the abundance of things, it's always fresh, and it's very economical. Like if you eat like the locals, right? Like we try not to break the budget by going, you know, to expensive restaurants. Some once in a while, you know, special occasions, but like most of the time it's just street food. We cook a lot of our meals too, so we just go to like, well, fair enough. So we go to like markets, do groceries, and try to cook because that also helps with the budget. So yeah.
I had an accident in Colombia once, and while I was getting better, the people I was with and I decided that we would see how many fruits we could name that you could get in Colombia, and I think we gave up at around 70 or something.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Unbelievable sort of cornucopia of fruit.
Yeah. Brazil is incredible for that too. Like fruits that you would never even think that, you know, existed. Just like, especially in the Amazon, it's crazy.
Well, I mean, guys, to be fair, Taser, when you said Mexico, I definitely developed an issue in terms of street food in Mexico. It's delicious. And I was thinking that immediately when I asked the question. But there you go. But guys, I mean, Ted, speaking of what you said there, had an accident. I guess it moves us on to another question we've got here from Tom Lau. He said, did you ever worry about personal safety, especially in sort of unstable countries? Has that ever been a concern of yours, or have you got any thoughts on that in particular, Ted?
Well, yeah. I mean, when I since I didn't know anything about any of these places before I started, quite honestly, I was shit scared when I started the journey, and it took me quite a while to realise that it really wasn't that bad at all. People were on the whole very good. The only time I ever actually had anything stolen from me was in Colombia, because I'd been warned that it was a good place for people to steal things, and I bought some locks, you know, some padlocks to put on my boxes, and the only thing that I had stolen was the key to the padlocks, and I had to saw them off because I couldn't get to them anymore. I mean, really, it's as silly as that, you know. I don't. You have to start off scared, and you have to find out for yourself that you don't need where you need to be and where you don't need to be. But it's not got anything to do with the country or any particular nationality or anything like that. although Thailand is fairly famous for having things nicked, so maybe there are one or two places where you need to watch out.
I think, yeah, it's interesting. I remember we had a similar question at the last virtual expo, and Tiffany, Sam was chatting about, Sam Mannequin was chatting about there's sort of a vulnerability to traveling that you begin to enjoy, I suppose, that side of not feeling safe necessarily, but eventually you just enjoy it and sort of thrive in it. Is that something that you can probably say you felt, or what are your thoughts on people feeling potentially unsafe and that putting off travel?
I think everyone starts off feeling nervous and a bit anxious about their safety, and quite often those are the messages you're getting from people around you before you go, and you also find out the hard way sometimes that people seem scared of their neighboring countries. Once you go beyond sort of the immediate borders, I know, like that first trip getting to Romania, and people in Romania were saying, oh, you're going to Bulgaria, you better be carrying guns. And this was Becky and I together on the bike, and we were like, what? But we're British, we don't carry guns. And it did make us nervous about going to Bulgaria because we didn't know anyone who'd been there before. And then when we got to Bulgaria, we're like, we've got to be really careful here. And everyone in Bulgaria said to us, oh, you've come to Romania?
Yeah.
You've got guns, yeah, because you need them to protect yourselves. And we're like, no, they were perfectly nice people. They were lovely. And in fact, 99.9% of the people in the world are good people. And I think the best bit of safety thing is to just learn to trust your gut instincts. And if you think a situation or a person doesn't seem safe, then you make your excuses and you leave. And so you're looking out for some of those little warning signs. But yeah, I've never, well, like Ted says, we've all made it home safely. So we kind of had, serious stuff going on. And I mean, there's some countries like Central Asia, some of the stands, there's, it's actually the military can be the problem there. So yeah, I've certainly experienced some problems there. And parts of Africa where there's different militia and people in army uniforms with a bit of string across the road insisting it's an official checkpoint, and I'm just like, no, it's not. So demanding to see their documents before I show mine. I don't know, I don't always think about how I'm going to deal with different situations before I get there. Sometimes they just happen. You're like, oh right, oh, what's going on here? Oh well. And just deal with it and try and use humor as much as possible to get through things. Obviously, as a female, some people sort of see me as being more vulnerable, and there's certain aspects that I do have to be more wary of. Quite often it's the lecherous border guards, that kind of thing. And but I just use a bit of humor and an awful lot of, hey, I don't actually understand a word you're saying, to just get through it.
Yeah. So you were saying you found it cheaper to travel slowly. I also think it's a lot safer to travel slowly. If you first of all, you have time to find out what's going on around you instead of just zipping through, and secondly, you don't get in a state, looking for somewhere to sleep at the last minute, and it's much safer, much healthier, much better, and a much better experience if you move slowly enough so that you can get used to the bugs and get used to the way people behave, and give yourself time to spend to meet people and enjoy life. So that's good for everything, and it's certainly good for safety as well.
Yeah, sure. Teza and Ernesto, would you say the same about safety kind of stuff, or what's your experiences?
Very similar. We agree with Ted and Tiffany. It seems like we're just like hijacking Tiffany's answers, but like it's true. So like being here in the States, we heard a lot of like Mexico. It really is really dangerous. Then from Mexico, people will talk about Guatemala, and then Guatemala they'll talk about like Honduras and El Salvador. So it's like we learned pretty early on our trip that you just need to be aware of the beginning. Obviously, there's a reset. So every time that you come into a new country, you're a little bit more aware of your surroundings until you kind of, have a better feeling of like what people are like and all that stuff.
And don't let other people's fear, don't take other people's fear on. You've listened to your gut. Like you said, you have to just really trust your intuition.
Yeah.
Of what feels safe.
Yeah. If we ended in a place that didn't feel right, we'll just moved on. Didn't have the need to basically just like spend time there. Or if we didn't like a person, we will like, it's not comfortable, so you move on. Yeah, there's definitely situations in areas that as Ted said, right? If you know and do your homework, you have a better chance to not end up in like a sketchy area, a place of town. So that helps.
Yeah,
sure.
I think that was a really wise tip from Ted too, of going slower. I think, you're more aware of your surroundings.
Yeah, not having to make a decision last minute and not being tired, to have a lucid mind and think of it, where you're going to be spending the night.
Yeah, cool. So just keep on the ball. Don't worry too much. Take it slow, and you'll probably be fine. That's kind of the general answers, I guess. So one question that always comes up, guys, and I'll go back to you guys first, Jose and Vanessa, because I keep coming to you at the end. So I'll go back to you. What about one thing? Is there one thing you take with you every time you think, I've got to take this one thing with me when I travel that saves the day or is really useful or it's just great to have around, like one item that people could add to their overlanding bag? A good travel partner. Yeah.
So mushy this morning. That's sweet. For me, it's probably I use my phone as a camera and as a GPS. So I know it's kind of a boring answer, but my phone is quite handy when traveling, and I also love hiking. So my hiking boots, it's not one thing, I'm going to say three things. And then I love coffee. So we had this MSR reactor, to boil water really quickly in the morning. So that was my treat of having water in 2 minutes boiled.
Yeah.
Nice.
For me, I would say the same thing, the camera. I love taking photos. So, and it's a good way to just kind of keep memories from your trip. So my camera, my hiking boots, for sure, couldn't do without. I felt like, a different person every time I put them on, and knowing that we were going to go on a hike. So, but obviously, our vehicle, right? It's what allowed us to get places. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, good answers. Cheating a bit there, guys. I'm not going to lie, but fair enough. Ted, how about you? Was there one thing you took on your trips that you wouldn't leave home without?
Well, aside from my inflatable rubber girlfriend, it was the umbrella.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say the umbrella. I didn't expect the first answer. I thought the umbrella would come up. No, love it. Yeah, it's iconic, your umbrella, Ted. Was it genuinely really handy then?
It was very, very useful. I used it many times. It's the number of times you find yourself suddenly in a storm and you need to get stuff out from boxes, and you've got a way of keeping things dry, and you can sleep on the bike under an umbrella if you're, if you can't get into the playground because it's locked or something. So, umbrella is very good, and you can prod elephants and so on. I don't recommend that, actually. But yes, umbrellas are a very good thing, and if you can't get an umbrella, elastic bands are very useful too.
Okay, cool. Elastic bands.
Rubber bands are surprisingly useful. Yeah.
There you go. So you've said three as well. Maybe we won't recap on those. Tiff, how about you? What one item would you take?
So I'm only allowed one, right? And Ted, I'm reminding you, my dad's watching this. Clean.
Oh, really?
I would say my Swiss Army knife. It's got a million different uses, and you could be. I know I was in Gobi Desert once with a French couple in a 4x4, and of course they had bottles of wine. and they couldn't find their corkscrew, and their looks of amazement as I produced my Swiss Army knife and with a flourish pulled out the corkscrew on it and opened the bottle of wine. They were very impressed with that. But my little luxury is my pepper grinder. I've got a little fresh, to get my freshly ground pepper. Wow. It's a little one from Turkey that I picked up on the first trip, so it's probably done about 200,000 miles with me now. It's vegetarian. It's just great being able to add a bit of extra pizzazz to a meal when it's beans and cheese yet again for dinner.
Yeah, for sure. Nice, cool. Well, we've got loads of questions coming in. We've not got too much time left. So any burning ones from you, Reece?
Well, I think
I've got to say, I have to leave you. I'm sorry to say.
That's okay, Ted. We're about to wrap up fairly soon already, so feel free to drop off.
If you've got to shoot, Ted, that's all right.
Come into the room, and that's the end of it.
Thanks so much for joining us, Ted, and thanks for those pearls of wisdom.
Lovely to see you all.
And you take care, Ted.
Bye.
Bye, Ted.
Thanks, Ted. Bye.
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 Okay, guys. I mean, what I was going to ask, obviously, before that is we always sort of get asked, and it's difficult not to touch upon it. You know, the reason we are doing these virtual expos rather than physical ones is because of COVID, and you know, it's obviously ongoing. People who are keen travelers who are watching it, and you guys are obviously desperate to travel in the future. Do you think that obviously your travels in the past have sort of helped like mental health and that sort of stuff for you or Tiffany, or and what are your hopes for the future in terms of travel moving forward?
Wow. Yeah. I think COVID has just absolutely stunned everybody, and it's a really difficult situation for so many people. I mean, I keep thinking about, you know, the people in the countries I've traveled in, you know, a lot of those developing countries where they're so reliant on tourist money and they've got nothing now. So there is sort of that at the back of my mind. And like you say, dealing with the mental health issues, I think as a solo traveler, I'm very used to isolation and, you know, traveling for months at a time in countries where English isn't widely spoken, and it's certainly not the mother tongue there. So that sort of deep, you know, digging deep within yourself for the resilience, but also knowing how to reach out. In the old days, it was just sending letters. I would be sort of, you know, here I am in my tent in the Sahara, hello, mum. And so, yeah, and just writing a letter, and you just don't feel so alone. And I know it might be weeks or months before my mum gets that letter. In fact, one time it was a year. So that knowing how to reach out and what helps to keep you sort of on an even keel, and at the same time dreaming about future stuff. I was, you know, obviously everything's been cancelled this year, and looking ahead to next year, but all the time aware that at the moment we can't make any definite plans. So just everyone bearing in mind that it's a maybe when it does happen, but certainly keep dreaming about it.
Yeah, you've got to keep dreaming, got to keep the hope, haven't you? I guess. What about you guys, Taser and Nesto?
Yeah, again, so well said, Tiffany. I think that keeping your eye on the, you know, future fun is important, and reaching out right now to, you know, friends and family to keep yourself, you know, grounded and happy and focused is really important. And it is challenging, and I think that we just have to do our part. And I guess I keep using the word grounded, and we kind of don't have a choice. And so on the road, when I was feeling kind of, you know, off or something, I would feel like I needed to be grounded. And so I would cook a meal. And so, I don't know, even remembering the small joys, like the little things that bring you joy. So, you know, cooking a meal, and I don't know, just kind of staying focused on the present moment is important too.
Yeah, reminiscing about our past travels, it helps, you know, when we are here without the ability to, you know, go out for weeks, months at a time. So, but also keeping that dream alive, right? Like, so we have so many plans for the future. And as Tiffany said, it's like, it's a maybe, we don't know when it's going to happen, but we keep it alive. So we keep working towards that, dreaming, and yeah. And we just have to remember how lucky we are in comparison to like a lot of other people, right? So we're very fortunate. So, you know, try to help however we can, out there, because there are people like are really going through rough times right now. Like tourism, it's being hit pretty much everywhere around the world. So there are friends that we met in that pretty much that's what sustains them, right, in their families. So like if you can help them somehow, that it's a good thing to do, like right now. So know that they supported you, and that you can do that back right now in these like difficult times. So
and making best of the virtual communities that we have. I mean, just trying to remember all that.
Yeah, for sure. It does help, this kind of stuff, the online communities and stuff, and talking about it, and just, like you say, reminiscing and looking back and stuff. I do think it's important to keep the hope and keep dreaming, not get too down in the dumps about it. And I'm getting excited about traveling just around the UK, and it's tiny. So you guys have got a whole world out there. I guess, guys, I think we should leave this on a happy note. So for when the world does get back to normal, or maybe that's not the way to do it, but when we get back to be able to travel again, let's have one place from all three of you guys about where you would like to go next. What's the one place you still need to travel to and see? So let's go with you first, Ernesto.
Not in a specific country. We'll like to go to Antarctica if we can are able to pull it off sometime the next year or so. But our plans have been focusing on getting our vehicle ready and saving to be able to do Africa for a few years.
And Alaska.
And we have to finish Alaska before we do that. So we dream. We will see.
Awesome.
Big plans. And Teza, for you, Alaska or Africa?
All of those places, planning and dreaming together. And then when we were talking about food, I really do want to do kind of like a street food tour at some point in like Vietnam and Thailand and all, what I've heard, where it's just totally different what we've experienced.
For sure. And how about you, Tiff? You've been everywhere already, I think. But...
Well, no, because look at the map behind me. Look, there's parts of West Africa I haven't been.
Oh, yeah.
When you said, Cameroon. For some reason, Cameroon is really taking my fancy, as we say. So, the jungles of Cameroon are calling to me. So that's where I'll be heading at some point.
Amazing. Exciting stuff, guys. Well, I'm pleased we managed to somehow angle it onto a positive note there to finish. Cameroon, it's going to be all of Africa and Alaska. You guys have got loads of answers for the one answer questions. But so we're going to wrap up now, guys. We could chat all day. Thanks so much to everyone for joining us. Thanks so much to you guys for coming on, and for Ted, who's had to rush off early. But you can watch this, if you're just tuning in now and just missed it. It's going to stay on the Expo YouTube channel. Next up, go over to Instagram. I think Nomadica are on live with Eva right now. If you want to see anything more from the Armchair Adventure Festival, just go armchairadventurefestival.com. We've got a film night this month. We've got Bew Mills's Africa by Kayak coming up. And then we've got a big festival, 27th to 29th of November, which is just going to be awesome. So more about that later. But thanks, guys. That's it from us today. Cheers.
Cheers.
Guys.